begins. Oops, let's turn the music down first. Shelling begins outside the Ukraine, and we start to wonder, is this actually happening now, or are we seeing another false flag, another psychological mind game, or another reason for the news to breathlessly go back and cover something else up? In other news, the police begin to clash with Ottawa protesters, starting to come around and threaten arrests if they don't clear out. So this may be coming to a head too as we go, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Italy is suspending unvaccinated over 50 workers, over 500,000 of them, so we will talk about what's going on with that. And Mexico tells us about a strange conspiracy theory behind the avocado ban. Yes, the government of Mexico is jumping on the conspiracy theory train. It is going to be all this and more. You're just mad you can't date me. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We are running a little bit behind today because I mean, the news was breaking right off the top that, I was sitting down organizing, I got most everything done, and I'm like, hey, I don't have anything about the Ukraine. I looked into the open tab I had on Google for searching for stuff about the Ukraine, and I see that there's shelling going on, which has changed the entire top maybe 20% of the show. So yeah, we had to come back and redo everything else out here. We got a good thing I like and thing that I hate today too at the bottom. It's going to be fun, and we've got some fun stuff going down on the bottom too with some mainstream media people acting stupid over on Twitter down on the bottom here. So it's going to be a good time over here on Contemporary. We got to get started though, because after trying to figure out what shelling was, because I will admit, and even still to this point, as much as I love war games, as much as I love analyzing politics, I didn't know what shelling was until this morning, and I'm still not 100% sure. I have an idea. I've got like a 90% idea of what it is, but I'm still not 100% sure what it is that they're doing over there in Donbass, allegedly. So we'll talk about that. Maybe the chat will teach me something today. Maybe we'll see what's happening there. But we've got to get into it. But before we get started, make sure you guys go check out the start page for turnsandpagesproductions.com. We are trying to build a new news website, and turnsandpagesproductions.com will be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Once we get started, we will be carrying great shows. And by the way, if you're over on Twitter, go over and find the Porch Boys podcast Twitter handle, because I don't know why he doesn't just do one of him. I would love to read the thoughts of John, not the thoughts of the Porch Boys, but go over and check out the Porch Boys podcast Twitter handle and go wish John a happy birthday. It is his birthday today, but also go check out their show Tuesday nights at, what time are they at? 8? I don't know. When they come on, I just hear it. Yeah, Tuesday nights at 8. Porch Boys, go check them out. Also check out the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, and the new upcoming project that's coming up with Britt and Sean Hickman. It's going to be a great time, and once we get up and started, you'll be able to find all these creators in one place. One new creator that will be coming on board as well, so new fundraiser coming. Do apologize, worked overtime yesterday again on 45 minutes of sleep, so pretty much I got home last night and was dead and went into the bed and laid in the bed and did the sleep thing, finally. I felt great afterwards, and I feel kind of fantastic now, too. But that's enough about me. Go check out the webpage, turnsandpagesproductions.com. Let's get started with the news for the day, starting with the Dow. The Dow actually had a kind of an up and down day. Now, given what we see, if there is actually shelling going on in the Donbass region, I expect this number to go down quite a bit as we go. But it dropped throughout the day yesterday. After the futures turning up, The Dow dropped throughout the day yesterday. Towards the end of the day, when Russia again assured that there was going to be a big drawdown of troops down from the border, everything turned itself back up, kind of flirted with the previous close line again, and then just kind of dropped again at the end, but not very much. We're only 54.57 points down over yesterday's close, and that is 0.16% down. I think that's a little bit loud in my ear. I don't know if it's a little bit loud in your ear. The monitor is saying no, but we're still going to take that down just a little bit. So with that, we'll see what happens with the markets again as we go. Looking at your Bitcoin. Bitcoin headed down day once again, down 737 US dollars and 90 US cents, or 1.68%, to 43,248 US dollars and 20 US cents per coin. Bitcoin has been in a wild whipsaw fashion once it cleared its 40,000 line once again, so continue to watch and continue to go if you would like to carry Bitcoin. If you don't, well, that's your own prerogative, of course. I choose not to carry Bitcoin. I use other cryptocurrencies. But that's what we see coming off of that. And once again, it's the one that everybody knows, so it does make a good hedge as to what the lower end of the economy is going to do, or what we think the lower end of the economy is going to do, because, you know, once people need those diapers, they need that food on the table, they need everything else. That's the first thing they're going to sell is the Bitcoin. So it looks like it's holding somewhat stable right now. We will see what happens with that and where that goes. Looking in at your metal prices, another nice thing to look at as we're looking at the bottom end of the economy and how that's shaking out. Copper is on the downswing, steel is on the upswing, and aluminum has turned itself positive as well, according to the averages. Looking in at the individual plays, bare bright copper wire is down. Number one tubing is down. Number one is up. Flashing copper is down. Number two tubing is also up. Insulated wire, THHN wire, Romex are all down. Brass is down, but brass shells are up. So, hey, it's a nice time to go out to the range and start sweeping, I guess. Looking at your steel plays are all in the green right now. Aluminum, with the exception of aluminum copper rims, or fin radiators rather, aluminum is also all in the green right now. So that's what we see off of that. The individual plays at the end. Electric motors are down, ballasts are down, lead is up, but batteries continue to remain down. Catalytic converters are all down right now, except for the small foreign cat. Compressors are up, alternators are down, carbide is up. Your computer plays, motherboards are up, but all of your other computer plays are down right now. So that's what we see coming up out of the metal markets right now. If you need to recycle, go and check and see what your local prices are. These are national averages. All right, let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow futures fall with Russia in focus. Nvidia, Palantir, Dash stock are earnings movers. From Ed Carson. Dow futures paired modest losses Thursday morning, along with S&P 500 futures and NASDAQ futures, with Russia comments on the Ukraine crisis in focus and Nvidia headlining overnight earnings. The stock market rally fell solidly intraday Wednesday, but rallied to close little changed after newly released Fed meeting minutes that held no new hawkish surprises. The Kremlin said overnight that it's worried about a flare-up of unrest in eastern Ukraine. Both the Ukrainian government and pro-Russia separatists claimed ceasefire breaches. Russia added that it'll take weeks to return troops back to their bases. On Wednesday, Russia said it was continuing to pull back troops from near the Ukrainian border, but NATO officials said they haven't seen any evidence of that. Instead, Russia has added some 7,000 troops to its already large buildup, a U.S. official said on Wednesday. On your earnings, Nvidia, Albemarle, Applied Materials, Cisco, and DoorDash were among many earnings reports Wednesday night. Nvidia fell modestly early Thursday, despite strong earnings and guidance. Applied Materials rose modestly on its positive results. Cisco stock advanced on strong results, a 3% dividend increase and a $15 billion buyback signaling a move above its 200-day line, but still below its 50-day line. The Cisco results follow strong earnings from faster-growing rival Arista Networks on Monday. Albemarle plunged on disappointing earnings guidance. DoorDash shot up 25% in extended trade on its earnings. If that holds during regular trading, the app-based delivery firm would test its tumbling 50-day line. That would still be more than 50% below DoorDash's November peak of $257.25. Look for more on Nvidia, Albemarle, and AMAT, and stock action. Alright. We're not going to look in on Palantir right now, but there is one that we should be looking at here. In other words, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration initiated yet another Tesla probe, this time investigating phantom braking in Model 3 and Model Y vehicles. The complaints, which have mounted in recent months, are said to involve random, often repeating braking at highway speeds. Some 416,000 vehicles are potentially exposed. Tesla lost a fraction. This is why, and people say, well, they're just going to turn around and do automated driving for truckers, and all the truckers are going to be at a job. Dude, we are not there for the technology yet. If anything, we may have, they may be able to throw some unskilled college kid into there at some point, but even there, I'd be nervous because you still want somebody who understands the air braking system and can take over and operate in an actual emergency with this, because we are not there yet on technology. It's a nice idea, it's a nice futuristic idea, and hopefully it is something that at some point does change and firm up the supply chain so we don't have to sit back and look at that anymore. So we don't have to sit back and wonder if something is going to happen out there where the government's going to make the truckers pissed off and they're going to come back out there and do that. It's a nice thought to think about, that a piece of stress is going to come back out of here. I don't like the fact that the government would be in control of this, but we could sit back and debate that topic. But what I can see from what's going on with the small cars, the Model 3 and Model Y, is we are light years off from the technology to do this on a commercial scale, on a commercial vehicle scale, because we can't even get right on a mid-sized car. And there's so much more that's going on with the big heavy trucks. So, like I say, it's a nice thought. And yes, once we open up this avenue of the economy, once it does finally happen, which may or may not still be in our lifetimes, but once this happens, this will open up the market to new jobs that will come back and follow. Jobs that we can't even imagine right now, but we will see what happens with that and where that goes. The Fed minutes, that's the other one in focus here, Fed minutes from the January 25th to 26th policy meeting showed policymakers are ready to begin interest rate hikes and curb the massive balance sheet soon to confront inflation, but that was largely known before. There may have been some relief that there were no new hawkish surprises, such as several policymakers favoring turbocharged tightening even last month. Remember, January Fed meeting came before the January CPI report, which sent the 10-year yield above 2% and ramped up Fed rate hike forecasts. The 10-year yield closed flat at 2.05%, but the 2-year yield, more closely tied to Fed policy, sank 5 points to 1.52%. The US dollar fell and gold rose, obviously. All of these moves indicate at least some sense that the Fed minutes were no more hawkish than expected. Nvidia is on the IBD leaderboard in the IBD 50. So that's a lot of information to come back and absorb with us right now, but we will see what happens with that. On your futures, Dow futures lost a fraction versus fair value, getting a lift from Walmart, which topped views early Thursday. S&P 500 futures gave up 0.2%, and NASDAQ futures declined 0.25%. Futures are off their overnight lows. Nvidia is a notable weight on the S&P 500 and especially NASDAQ. Cisco is a Dow Jones, S&P 500, and NASDAQ component. The 10-year yield fell to 2.01%. Crude oil futures fell nearly 2%. Hopefully that means some reprieve at the pump from Wednesday's close, but that decline came in early electronic trading Wednesday afternoon while the stock markets were still open. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. Holy shit, that was a lot of information in one article. Let's have a look at what's going on here with Seeking Alpha. See what it is that they have to say here. NASDAQ, S&P, and Dow futures fall amid conflicting Ukraine updates. Stock index futures pointed to a lower opening Thursday as the tensions on the Ukraine border remain elevated and investors contend with uncertain reports. Futures slumped after the Russia state media reported that Ukraine forces had fired on Donbas. Ukraine has denied the claims and accused the Russian-backed rebels of firing on the village. Crude oil spiked, but it's now 2% lower. That's down to 2.01. We saw that already. Yesterday was the first time that the 2S10's curve has steepened for 2 days in a row since the first two trading sessions of the year, which just shows how the picture of 2022 so far has mostly been pretty relentless flattening, Deutsche Bank's Jim Reed says. So, yeah, Seeking Alpha is just saying a lot of the same stuff that IBD did, because that was a lot of information packed into there. Let's get into the big news of the day. And we are starting with something that I didn't believe we were going to be starting with today. We are starting with ABC News, Russia-Ukraine live update. Separatist forces claim large-scale shelling in Donbas. So right now, the U.S. continues to warn that Russia could invade the Ukraine any day amid escalating tensions in the region, with Secretary of State Antony Blinken telling ABC News on Wednesday that the U.S. has seen no meaningful pullback of Russian forces. February 17th, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Eastern Time. U.S. Ambassador to UN, Russia is moving toward an imminent invasion. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, warned on Thursday that Russia appears to be ready for an imminent invasion of neighboring Ukraine. The evidence on the ground is that Russia is moving toward an imminent invasion, Thomas-Greenfield told reporters during a background briefing call. This is a crucial moment. Lukashenko. Russian troops will stay in Belarus as long as necessary. Alexander Lukashenko said Thursday that Russian troops will be in his country for as long as necessary. As long as necessary, the Russian armed forces will be here. This is our land, our territory, Lukashenko told Belarusian state media. We're working here, studying, and will continue to study. Further joint exercises of the armed forces of Russia and Belarus will be discussed with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday, according to Lukashenko. Russia is to respond to the U.S. on NATO security guidance. Russia will soon formally respond to the written answers that the U.S. sent earlier to Moscow's demands for security guarantees that NATO not enlarge, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Thursday. The U.S. government, at Russia's insistence, sent written responses to two draft treaties the Kremlin published, demanding guarantees that the Ukraine will never join NATO and that the military alliance pull back its infrastructure from eastern Ukraine countries that joined after the Cold War. Washington rejected those guarantees as non-starters, but offered to discuss some confidence-building measures. And this one, the one that we were going to talk about off the top. Ukraine accuses Russia-backed separatists of shelling a kindergarten. Ukraine has accused Russia-backed separatist forces of shelling a village controlled by the Ukrainian government troops and hitting a school there early on Thursday. The armed forces of the Ukraine said separatists fired upon the southeastern village of Stanitsia Luhanska. The head of the community's local administration confirmed to ABC that they were under heavy fire on Thursday morning. The firing has since ceased, officials told ABC. But on the other side, Russia-backed separatists claim large-scale shelling in the Ukraine. So that's the base down, that's the rundown headlines. These are live updates from ABC on brief little snippets as we go. But let's talk about the shelling, because I think that's going to be the big one, the one that we have to come back and talk about. We are going to start with Reuters. Because of that, we're going to have two NBCs in a row, but such is life. Ukraine, Russia-backed rebels trade accusations of shelling across front. Russian-backed rebels and Ukrainian forces traded accusations on Thursday that each had fired across the ceasefire line in eastern Ukraine, raising alarm at the time when Western countries have warned of the possibility of a Russian invasion any day. The details of the incidents could not be independently confirmed, and the initial report suggested they were on a similar scale to ceasefire violations that may have been common throughout the 8-year conflict. But at the time of global concern over the prospect of a wider war, more than 100,000 Russian troops near the Ukrainian frontier, Moscow denies it's planning an invasion and has said this week it's pulling back some troops, though Western countries say they're not convinced. The separatists accused the government forces of opening fire on their territory 4 times in the past 24 hours, while the Ukraine accused the rebels of firing shells, including some that struck a kindergarten, causing shell shock to 2 civilians. I thought we called it PTSD now, not shell shock. A Reuters photographer in the town of Kadivka, in Ukraine's rebel-held Luhansk region, heard the sound of some artillery fire from the direction of the line, but contact was not immediately able to assess the details of the incident. Hey, maybe I'm still running on no sleep. Kiev and its Western allies have repeatedly said in recent weeks that they believe Moscow could use an incident in the separatist conflict as justification for an invasion. Russia, for its part, has accused Kiev of trying to provoke an escalation to recapture rebel territory by force. A diplomatic source said a long-standing monitoring mission from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe has recorded multiple shelling incidents along the line of contact in early hours on Thursday. So, and it does look like you guys were all trying to teach me what shelling was. So, and I was looking at some of that as well. And yeah, I tried it because, I mean, when I think shelling, I think that maybe they took the empty shells of something that they had already fired off and just kind of lobbed it over there to say, fuck you, hey, look at us over here. But, I mean, looking at the definition, it does look like this is just actual regular artillery fire going into off in a distance, which I guess I don't... The reason I was confused about what shelling was is I didn't understand exactly what the difference was between that and a regular attack. I mean, if they're shelling, as they say, why not just call that an attack? From the way I understand what the definition was, I thought it was like just a provocation or something. Which is, again, why I asked the question, why I took some time before we got started and looked it up to come back and look. Because, I mean, that's what a couple different military dictionaries have told me, too, that it's essentially an attack. But it could be in direct fire just to try to, you know, pull people into an attack as well. So, but it does look like we saw in the ABC News article, that they might have hit a kindergarten as well. So, I mean, is this the false flag that we got promised? Did the U.S. start doing this? Did Russia start doing this? Did the Ukraine start doing this? There are a lot of questions going on right here. So that's what we see. Let's grab one of our 2 in a row from NBC. Shelling in eastern Ukraine adds to tensions as U.S. says Russia claim of troop pullback is false. From Yulia Talsman. Ukrainian army and Russian-backed separatists accused each other of being behind a flare-up of the long-running conflict in the country's east Thursday, further stoking tensions after the U.S. and its allies disputed Moscow's claims of a pullback from around its neighbors' borders. Kiev's forces found artillery shells fired by Moscow-backed rebels hit a kindergarten and injured 3 people, while the separatists accused Ukraine's army of firing on territory that they control. As tensions rose again on the front line of a conflict that has been ongoing since 2014, the West warned anew that a Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent. Washington and NATO accused Moscow of misleading the word with false claims it was pulling back some troops, saying that it had in fact seen an increase in the military buildup that has fueled the months-long crisis. The conflict in eastern Ukraine has been closely watched over fears it could become a flashpoint and a source of potential escalation in the broader standoff, which has seen Russia deploy more than 150,000 troops to converge around the Ukraine on 3 sides while issuing demands to the US and NATO. Sporadic firing from the area is not unusual, but it comes amid Western warnings that Russia could use an escalation in the fighting, or stage a false flag operation as a justification for a fresh military incursion. On Thursday, the Ukrainian army said a kindergarten in the territory under Kiev's control was shelled with heavy artillery weapons. Why would you hit a kindergarten? Unless you're just firing indiscriminately. By the separatist forces, 3 employees at the kindergarten in Stantistia, Luhanska, were injured, the army statement said, and half of the town was left without electricity as a result of shelling elsewhere. So it does appear that the accusations are just who started at this point, because there were, in fact, shells that were hitting. I mean, either that or the power company said, oh, hey, let's go try to stage a false flag and turn the power off, but that doesn't seem like something the power company would do. Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said on Twitter that the town was shelled with heavy weapons from the occupied territory of the Donbass, calling on foreign partners to condemn the incident. Meanwhile, Moscow-backed separatists in the self-proclaimed Luhansk People's Republic accused Ukrainian soldiers of firing on their territory 4 times in the past 24 hours. Reuters reported in a statement the separatists said Ukrainian forces had used mortars, grenade launchers, and a machine gun in 4 separate incidents, according to Reuters. The details of the incidents could not be independently confirmed by NBC News. This is big. This is really big. I mean, this is something that we really need to pay attention to with this, because nobody knows who fired off these shots at this point. There are 3 governments involved in this, and honestly, I couldn't put this past all 3 governments involved in this. The U.S. government is looking at this, and I mean, they are trying hard. The U.S. government's trying hard to make it seem like this is going to be the flashpoint that puts us off into a war, and we need to pay attention to this, and evil Russia, and look, they put Trump into power, and look at what they're going to do. Meanwhile, looking to get themselves, like we've said from the beginning, into a war to distract from their major failures. Ukraine obviously has some interest in this because this is happening on their border with their territory, and Russia, for whatever reason, wants to have the Ukraine. And like I say, I know that most people say that this is all about going with the former Soviet Union, but I mean, topographically, that's the only reason that they could, because there's absolutely zero strategic importance to the Ukraine. But all 3 sides have an interest in doing something like this. And I would believe it if you told me any of the 3 parties involved in this did this. But that's what we see coming off that. Let me actually get a refresh off of this. So let's have a quick listen to this one here. Breaking news: U.S. closing embassy in Ukrainian capital. But I do want to talk about what's happening here with Washington's warning that Russia is about to invade, as frustrating the Ukrainians. But let's listen to this for just a moment, because this is important into what it is that we're talking about. And I'll be right back. Oh, tapped on mute.
Russian troops in Belarus practicing urban combat. U.S. officials say this week is critical, declaring Russia is now able to attack with little or no warning. So the U.S. is now moving its embassy personnel out of the capital to western Ukraine, a move criticized by Ukraine's President Zelensky, suggesting it showed weakness. And tonight, Zelensky was dismissive of U.S. intelligence that Russia could soon invade, which he says causes panic. They tell us February 16th will be the day of the attack. We will make this a day of unity, he said. His aides later said he was referring to recent media reports. Meanwhile, Ukraine's ambassador to the UK is walking back comments that Ukraine might forego its bid to join NATO, a key Russian demand. This weekend, President Biden spoke with President Putin. No breakthroughs. Today, Russia's foreign minister met the Russian president at the end of yet another long table, telling him there's still room for diplomacy. Putin, in a tight COVID bubble, has met leaders at what seems like social distance plus. Russia says it won't invade, but in Ukraine, some families are getting ready for war. Training to handle an AK-47 is Valentina Konstantinovskaya, a 79-year-old retired accountant and a great-grandmother.
Do you think you're going to actually be doing this?
Yes, if Putin will come, I should be able to shoot, she says.
The Kremlin says it's still open to deploy.
Goddamn, that was a based response. Goddamn, that was a based response indeed. If Putin should come in, yes, I should be able to fire a gun. Hell yes, that was so based. But I mean, and this is what you should have been doing for years, especially after the Crimean thing to begin with. You know, get down there, get ready. You're in a contested territory after the fall of the Soviet Union. This should have been going on since the 90s, this kind of thing. And, you know, it's been one of the things that's been said right off from the top, too. I mean, look at this, and I'm not saying that they could stand down and face down the Russian military, because there's a lot of them, but I'm saying a gun behind every blade of grass is an easy deterrent. I mean, there are a couple sides to that as well. I mean, we have seen guerrilla groups in Iran, Iraq, and various other places in the in the Middle East, and in Vietnam as well, stand up to the U.S. military on numerous occasions, supposedly the most powerful military in the world, and they can still come back and stand up and hold their own territory throughout it. Afghanistan, too. So I'm not saying that it's impossible, but, you know, on the other side of that, Russia can just come down, and especially with the lack of strategic importance in the Ukraine, and just take the tanks and mow down every building and start from scratch and say, okay, now we come out, and now I have new jobs as you go out build new buildings in this area here. But I would rather, even if that was the case that I was sitting in, I would still rather die on my feet than live on my knees. So, but let's actually talk about the psychological effect of what's going on with this. Washington's warning that Russia is about to invade frustrates the Ukrainians. From Matt Bradley and Veronica Melkozerova, there we go. Ukrainians say they're increasingly confused and angered after encountering the bellicose rhetoric, aggressive posturing, and domineering attitude of a powerful foreign government. They didn't mean the government in Moscow, but the ones in Washington, London, and elsewhere in Western Europe. Ukrainian officials are grateful for Western aid and assistance while expressing genuine unease about a Russian invasion, but they're also barely able to contain their frustration with Washington's warnings of war. Many here say that they believe that instead of putting Moscow on notice, the warnings are playing directly into its hand, shaking confidence in Ukraine's leadership and damaging the country's fragile economy. Yes. It is not what the Western partners have promised us, said Darya Kaliniuk, the executive director of the Anti-Corruption Action Center, a Kiev-based watchdog group. They were saying there will be swift, fast, strong reaction against Russia in case it continues its aggression, as is happening now, and it's Ukraine that is paying cost. As Russia masses an estimated 130,000 troops on Ukraine's border, American officials have issued increasingly urgent and specific warnings about Moscow's intention. No, it's going to happen today. No. Oh, shit, it didn't happen today. Oh, it's going to happen the next day. No. Oh.
I have to sort this out on my own. Without the council.
There are warnings of crisis actors staging Russian false flag terrorist operations to foment a pretext for war. Others have been alarmingly specific, predicting an invasion within days. Various media reports, unconfirmed by NBC News, even cited Wednesday that specific invasion date. In a speech Monday that was later posted to his Facebook profile, President Zelensky brought up these reports in what was an apparent attempt to mock or dismiss them, instead christening Wednesday as calling Unity Day for patriotic dress-up. So, and yeah, I mean, think about that for just a second. We're in a situation where Mexico has actually built up a massive army. I know it's unlikely. But we're in a situation where Mexico has built up a massive army. And they're getting ready to invade and take over the U.S. Again, this is a hypothetical. This isn't a reality, because even with all the drug lords in Mexico, not going to happen. But say, just in an alternate universe it does, that Mexico starts building up this massive army, getting ready to come back and invade and take over the US. And we start getting help from London. London starts sending troops over here. London starts getting out, preparing us to do so. But the whole time that Boris Johnson is standing over there, sending over his people over there, what does it do to the American people when he's standing up at the bully pulpit saying, oh yes, we've intelligence over here that Mexico will come in 2 days from now. So you better be ready for that when it comes here. And just doing that over and over again, what do you think that would do to our markets that are controlling the rest of the world? What do you think that would do to our people, especially the people along the southern border? That's a bullshit fucking move. And that's what's been going on in the Ukraine since Thanksgiving. That's the thing they've had to hear from their mainstream news media since Thanksgiving. Oh, it's going to be any day now. Oh, it's coming. Oh, it's going to be any day now. No, I know, Sully, but like I say, that was the hypothetical, so I could bring in a foreign aid to come back and tell us that it's coming. It's any day now. There's almost no chance of any hypothetical army coming over here and doing a land invasion over here. That is like 0.0001% chance. But we needed a hypothetical to show how our people would react. But that's what they say off of that. And I mean, good on Ukraine for looking back at Washington and saying, dude, what the fuck? Alright, a little bit more conflict going on out there between us and Russia. From the Wall Street Journal, U.S.-Russian aircraft flew perilously close to each other amid the tensions. From Nancy A. Youssef and Michael R. Gordon. U.S. and Russian military aircraft flew dangerously close to each other in 3 separate weekend incidents over the Mediterranean Sea, including one in which the planes passed within 5 feet, Pentagon officials said on Wednesday. Yeah, I don't think that's so much as an aggression towards war. I mean, I've met fighter pilots and they're always the same. They're not always the same. That's a huge generalization, but a lot of the times they're the same. Cocky jock show-off that wants to show just how well he can fly, how well he can do, and pretty much show off whatever it is that he can do. And I can't imagine that Russian fighter pilots are indifferent. This is them showing off and saying, hey, look what I can do! And buzzing within 5 feet of each other just to say that they can. This is not an aggressive act. This is showing off. The incidences, which occurred in international airspace on Friday and Saturday, involved Russian Su-35 jet fighters crossing into the flight paths of the U.S. Navy P-8A surveillance aircraft, officials said. The encounters come amid heightened tensions between the U.S. and Russia over Moscow's buildup of military forces near the Ukraine, with the Biden admin warning that Russian attack could come any day. Russia's defense ministry said that its forces detected a U.S. submarine in Russian waters off the Kuril Islands in the Pacific on Saturday and used unspecified appropriate means to drive off the sub. Spokesman for the Navy's Indo-Pacific Command denied that a U.S. sub was operating in Russian territorial waters. And yet, as much Clancy as I've read, that wouldn't surprise me either. The Pentagon assessed 2 of last weekend's mid-air encounters as unsafe, and the third is unprofessional, officials said. Yep, of course it is. I mean, you guys know the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, when Bill Engvall got the chance to go back and ride in I believe it was a Navy jet. It might have been Air Force, but I think it was Navy. No, it was Air Force, because they were over the Mojave. So he gets this opportunity to ride shotgun in a jet fighter, and the pilot is driving over. I mean, he's flying over the Mojave, and they see there's just this station wagon driving alone on a highway out there. And the pilot goes, "Hey, you want to buzz it?" And according to Bill, they came within like 1 or 2 feet of the top of this station wagon. I mean, this is what fighter pilots do. They come back and they show off. They enjoy it. It's fun for them. And again, I can't imagine the Russian guys are any different off of this. It takes a certain personality to operate something that goes at that speed. I've never had the chance to fly one. That's what I wanted to do when I was in high school. Is I wanted to, and I was convinced, of course, because of academia, to not join the military. Well, you need to go to college, not join the military. Look at how, and then I wound up going to trade school and disappointing everybody. But it's like, you need to go to college. The military is not a path for you. But that's what I wanted to do until I read the rules and found out what happens when you wear these. But I wanted to fly a jet fighter. But it's the same kind of personality around street racing or any other kind of racing. It takes a certain personality to enjoy and be able to drive something that moves that quickly. But that's what we see coming off of that. Let's grab one here. Let's shift gears here. Let's talk about what's going on in Canada, and we'll start with that with our friends over in NPR. Tensions rise in Ottawa as police warn truckers to leave. This comes to NPR via the Associated Press, but NPR still needs our money to be able to pull in articles from the Associated Press and redistribute them for us. So hit that donate button because your taxpayer monies are not, your taxpayer dollars rather, are not doing enough. NPR, never printing reality, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what it is that they have to say. Tensions rise. We read the headline already. A showdown appeared to be shaping up in Ottawa's nearly 3-week siege by truckers protesting the country's pinko pox restrictions as police in the capital warned drivers on Wednesday to leave immediately or risk arrest. The rigs parked outside Parliament represented the movement's last stronghold after demonstrators abandoned their sole remaining truck blockade along the U.S. border. With that, all border crossings were open for the first time in more than 2 weeks of unrest, centering attention on the capital where drivers defiantly ripped up warnings telling them to go home. Authorities in yellow police liaison fence went from rig to rig, knocking on doors and handing truckers leaflets, informing them they could be prosecuted, lose their licenses, and see their vehicles seized under Canada's Emergencies Act. Police also began ticketing vehicles. One protester shouted, "I will never go home!" Some threw the warnings into a toilet put out on the street. Protesters sat in their trucks and honked their horns in a chorus that echoed loudly downtown. There was no immediate word from police on when or if they might move to clear the hundreds of trucks by force. What force? Again, you need to explain that to me. You, Mr. Officer, are not just going to go get in that rig and move it. And the tow company has already told you to go and fuck yourself. What force? Explain that to me. If it means that I might go to prison, if I need to be fined in order to allow freedom to be restored in this country. Millions of people have given far more for their freedom, said David Paisley, who traveled to Ottawa with a friend who is a truck driver. That is a statement that would make me proud to be a part of a society. And I don't really usually care to be a part of a society, but that is a statement right there. Hey, you know what? I'll go to prison to fight for freedom. Because people have done far worse. Because, I mean, sometimes the patriotic line is cringy when you're trying to support going to war over in Iraq, but still, you still look back and think about who gave all, especially at the beginning of this country in 1776 and beyond during the Revolutionary War. When they told the Redcoats to get the fuck out and go home. The warnings came 2 days after Justin Trudeau invoked the emergency law to try to break the protests. It's not for politicians to tell the police when and how to do things. That we have done with the Emergency Act is to make sure the police have necessary tools, Trudeau said Wednesday. It is something that I, like all residents of Ottawa, hope to happen soon, eh? The crisis has become one of the most serious tests yet for Trudeau, the boyish-looking 50-year-old who has long channeled his star power. And, oh, Jesus Christ. Why don't you just kneel down and suck him off right then and there, NPR? Holy fuck. If not quite the political heft of his father, Pierre Trudeau, who was Prime Minister a generation ago. Some lawmakers are faulting the younger Trudeau for not moving more decisively against the protest, while others are accusing him of going too far and assuming emergency powers. Some lawmakers are faulting the younger Trudeau. Next one. Since late January, protesters in trucks and other vehicles have jammed the streets of the capital and obstructed border crossings. Demonstrations by the self-styled Freedom Convoy initially focused on Canada's vaccine requirements for truckers entering the country, but soon morphed into a broad attack on the Pinko Pox precautions and Trudeau himself. So, yes, at this point now, they're coming together and saying, okay, if it'd be okay with you, I'd like to arrest you now and bring you into prison because you can't be put in your truck there. But again, what force? What force are you going to use to come and take this vehicle? This 80,000-pound vehicle. Well, I think it's mostly tractors. I don't know if there are a lot of trailers down there, but still, take the 17,000-pound vehicle without a record, and with nary a person that knows how to drive the goddamn thing, and move it. But that's what we see coming up with that. Let's grab one from a former newspaper, the New York Times. Defiant Ottawa protesters brace for a clampdown. From Dan Bilevsky. The police on Wednesday ordered protesters clogging Ottawa's streets to leave or face criminal charges, appearing to set the stage for a clampdown aimed at ending the demonstrations that have roiled the nation's capital for weeks and reverberated around the world. The impetus to stop protests from buffeting the country was amplified this week after the RCMP said Tuesday that 4 protesters in Alberta had been charged with conspiracy to murder RCMP officers. I'm sure they did not. Officials said those arrested belonged to a small cell of in the province that planned to use violence if officers tried to break up a now disbanded blockade and Couts, a village in southern Alberta, bordering Montana. Bullshit. Bullshit. A stockpiled weapon, including 13 long guns, handguns, a machete, multiple sets of body armor, and a large quantity of ammunition and magazines, was discovered by the police in trailers in Alberta on Monday morning. Bullshit! Bullshit! Number 2, and this is the better question, what do 13 people think that they're going to do, other than try to get a monkey see, monkey do kind of thing happening in the Capitol? What is it that 13 people... No, they know better than that. Bullshit! The arrests and Couts and warnings in Ottawa came as Prime Minister Trudeau this week has made his most aggressive move yet, declaring a national emergency aimed at ending the demonstrations that began nearly 3 weeks ago to protest vaccine mandates, but have transformed into a battle cry against pandemic restrictions in general and against his premiership. Yeah, no. No. That is bullshit. They might have found those 2 in a trailer. Everything else they found in their weapons locker or their impound lockup at the station. Maybe that 3rd one too, because that's a regular stock hunting rifle. They might have found these 3. Maybe this one and this one. No, they didn't find all the rest of this in a trailer somewhere. And if they did, it's only because they fucking put it there. No. And also, here's the other thing. If there actually was a plan to go back out to murder RCMP officers, as they say that there was, the people that were coming up behind that would have had more than one gun per person. They have 13, well, long gun. I'm sure that they would have had a sidearm too, but they've got 13 long guns and 13 people. No. They would have brought more than one rifle. Fuck you. No, this is a bullshit. This is a bullshit story. But they're going to continue to try to cram that down your throat. And the clash is coming. All right, from Reuters. Ottawa protesters vow to stay as Canada warns of extremists. From Steve Shearer and David Lundgren. We're going to go with that. Protesters continued their 3-week-old blockade at of the core of Canada's capital on Thursday, after officials warned of extremist elements present among them who want to overthrow the government. On Wednesday, police in Ottawa handed out flyers warning truck drivers and others paralyzing the downtown core that they should leave or face arrest. But there was little sign of imminent action to move the nearly 400 vehicles out. While the demonstrators protest against the vaccine mandates and pandemic restrictions, they have also made it clear their opposition to Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and some have said they want to kick him out of office. A portion of the protesters have strong ties to a far-right extremist organization with leaders who are in Ottawa. Canada's Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino said, referring to the arrest of 13 people in Alberta earlier this week, linked to a border blockade there that has been since disbanded. The guns and ammunition and police have charged. They had guns and ammunition, and police have charged 4 of them for conspiracy to commit murder. While the Ottawa protest has been loud and rowdy, it has been non-violent. I'm not afraid, a protester in Ottawa on Wednesday who declined to give his name. We're here peacefully and we will remain peacefully. Even if they attempt to arrest us, we will be arrested peacefully, eh? On Monday, Trudeau invoked emergency powers in order to end the arrest. Justice Minister David Lametti said the emergency legislation would be presented to the House of Commons on Thursday. We're going to take back the entirety of the downtown core and every occupied space, Interim Ottawa Police Chief Steve Bell said in a statement on Thursday, adding that the action would be taken in coming days and that it would take time to do right. The left-leaning New Democrats say they would support the minority Liberal government, ensuring the powers would pass. Meanwhile, on Thursday, one of the protest organizers, Pat King, posted a video on Twitter warning police to stand down. Back off, stand down, put your badge on the ground, and stand with the people, King said. When this comes to an end, just following orders is not going to be a good legal defense, eh? So the gloves are down. We'll see what happens with that. Let's grab one from the Daily Wire. Jordan Peterson got in the news here. Dr. Peterson rips Trudeau over swastika taunt to Jewish lawmaker. Never encountered anybody more self-righteous. From Tim Pierce. Author and psychologist Jordan Peterson blasted Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau Wednesday after Trudeau accused a Jewish Conservative Party lawmaker of standing with the people who wave swastikas. Trudeau accused Conservative MP Melissa Lantsman, who is Jewish, of supporting neo-Nazis after she criticized the Prime Minister over his rhetoric towards the protesters who've camped in downtown Ottawa for weeks over vaccine mandates and other rules. I don't think I've ever encountered anyone more self-righteous in my entire life other than our current Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, Peterson tweeted, along with a clip of Trudeau's remarks. Let's listen.
Naive dream. It could be a powerful force for change. If Canadians are to trust their government needs to trust Canadians. Those are the words of the Prime Minister in 2015. These people, very often misogynistic, racist, women haters, science deniers, the fringe. Same prime minister 6 years later as he fans the flames of an unjustified national emergency. So, Mr. Speaker, when did the prime minister lose his way? When did it happen?
The right honourable prime minister.
Mr. Speaker, Conservative Party members can stand with people who wave swastikas. They can stand with people who wave the Confederate flag. We will choose to stand with Canadians who deserve to be able to get to their jobs, who be able to get their lives back. These illegal protests need to stop, and they will, Mr. Speaker.
I just want to remind the honourable members, including the Right Honourable Prime Minister, to use words that are not inflammatory in the House, and that's for both sides. The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
So that's what it is they had to say. Trudeau and Landsman's exchange came during a session of Parliament on Wednesday, as the Daily Wire reported. Landsman later demanded an apology from the Prime Minister, posting to Twitter, "I think the Prime Minister should think long and hard about his own history before singling out a Jewish member of Parliament and falsely accusing me of standing with a swastika." Yeah, old blackface Trudeau, he should probably really think about that, actually. But that's what they say coming off of that. We might have to go back and see that here. Ilhan Omar was an unlikely supporter off of this here. Ilhan Omar says, "I fail to see why any journalist felt the need to report on a shop owner making such an insignificant donation rather than get them harassed. It's unconscionable and journalists need to do better." Tweeting out to Alison Ma, who has locked her account down, I believe. Or I got blocked, one of the two. So we don't even get to see what it is that she had to say unless the Daily Caller actually has it screenshotted here. But let's read what the Daily Caller had to say. Ilhan Omar defends people who donated to Canadian truckers. And we will say good job when somebody says something and does it right. From Henry Rogers. Minnesota Socialist Representative Ilhan Omar defended a shop owner who made a donation to the Freedom Convoy in Canada, saying journalists should not be reporting on and putting the names out there of people who made insignificant donations. Omar sent out a tweet in response to an editor at the Ottawa Citizen-Sun, who shared a report about Stella Luna Gelato Cafe in Ottawa, which had to close down Tuesday. After receiving continued threats, the outlet reported the owner, Tammy Giuliani's name, was on the list of the Give, Send, Go donors to the Freedom Convoy, which made public after a Sunday hacking. The hackers leaked the data, which included names, email addresses, and more. Omar says she fails to see why the reporting on the people who made these donations only makes them subject to harassment. And yes, the tweet is gone. The journalist who posted the article that Omar responded to faced a slew of criticism after tweeting out the story, and of course locked her account down, so we don't even get to see the tweet. Good on Ilhan. Why? Does somebody have to face down harassment for a donation? I mean, we wouldn't do the same thing to people who donated out to the BLM cause, and we know, I mean, they're open about it. They brag about it. All the big corporations, all the biggest corporations, and the ones that go out and change all their logos to all black because we have to go back and do this for Black Lives Matter. We know all them. They don't have to sit back and hide behind and get leaked out in a data leak, because they come back out and proudly yell it out, and you know, they don't get out and get harassed by right-wing people. Why should this go the other? Oh, I know, because they have the wrong politics. Good on Ilhan, absolutely. agree with you for much, Ilhan Omar, but you'll get this one from me, absolutely. Speaking of the Give, Send, Go hack, from Libs of TikTok, this apparently is the dude who hacked Give, Send, Go. I have no idea what we're about to see, but I bet you it's going to be weird, because this guy looks really weird. Let's listen.
Nothing scares me. Nothing. Yes, I doxed the truckers. I did it. It was me. I hacked Give, Send, Go, baby. And I do it again.
This gentleman seems mentally stable. I didn't watch this video first. I saw that he was doing the weird dance in the beginning. That's all that I've seen off of this. This guy seems stable, doesn't he?
I do it 100 times! I did it! I did it! Come at me! What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do to me, huh?
Well, cybercrime is a felony, so it sounds like your asshole might get a little bit wider at this point, but looking at you and the weird little dance off the beginning, that might be something you enjoy, so have at it.
I hacked Epic Hosting! I hacked Parler! I hacked Gab! I hacked Truth Social! I hacked Go! Give, Send, Go! I don't care! You can literally put my name into the news tab on Google, and you can find everything I've done. I am literally in every mainstream media publication for the things that I do. I'm not an unknown actor. I'm literally a famous fucking cyber terrorist. And you think that you can scare me? See, they always default to the pedophile accusations. They always default to that because they have nothing else. It's actually some projection. That guy, I want to see his browser history. That guy loves little girls. I've hunted pedophiles. I've outed pedophile rings online. I have gotten pedophiles arrested, buddy. You have no idea who the hell I am. There isn't proof of shit, you fucking lying little cunt. Die! I'm gonna restart this live. Come back. Honeypots, how do they work?
Well, that gentleman seems stable, doesn't he? Apparently, that's the guy that hacked. A week ago, Give, Send, Go was made aware of this guy.
As of this morning, the Convoy fundraiser has been updated. They're calling me out. How nice of you to say hello.
And furthermore, I don't think he was the one that did it. But yes, this gentleman seems absolutely stable. Let's grab one from Ron Helton's. Let's shut this up before this guy starts fucking yelling again. Now one from Ron Helton's favorite publication from his favorite politician, Bloomberg. Shifting gears here, let's go talk about what's happening with Hillary briefly. Biden orders lawmakers to access Trump's White House visitor logs for January 6th because, well, apparently we still have to do that yet, too.
There is no try.
From Josh Wingrove and Billy House. President Brandon directed the National Archives to release to Congress Trump's White House visitor logs for January 6th, rejecting his predecessor's claims that the logs are subject to executive privilege. The president has determined that an assertion of executive privilege is not in the best interest of the U.S., therefore is not justified. As to these records and portions of records, White House counsel Dana Remus wrote in a February 15th letter to David Ferrero, the archivist of the U.S. Remus directed Ferrero to turn over the records within 15 days of providing notice to Trump, barring a court order. The majority of the entries, over which the former president has asserted executive privilege, would be publicly released under current policy. She said, "You are not going down a road you're going to enjoy." The panel probing the Selfie Fest attack has requested logs for the White House visitors on that and other days, as well as other Trump-era records. A spokesman for the committee had no immediate comment on Wednesday. A spokesman for Trump did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The Supreme Court last month rejected Trump's bid to block the release of records to the January 6th panel, a victory for the committee and its Democratic chairman, Benny Thompson. In addition to the visitor logs, the investigative committee has requested all photographs, videos, and other media, including any digital timestamps taken or recorded within the White House that day. Release the video. Release the video. There are hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of video that the public is never going to see. Publicly release all the video and let the people decide for themselves. You've had your time. The FBI has said there's been no insurrection. And the only thing that we have left is a partisan congressional panel. Oh, but there are Republicans on it. No, a partisan congressional panel that is set to do anything to make sure that the former president can never run again. Including going back and getting blanket access to all the records, not because they actually believe that they're going to find something here, because they know who started this whole thing. They already know who started this whole thing. Not because they believe that they're going to come back and find something, but because they're going to come back and look at this and say, oh, hey, here's a juicy tidbit that we can put out as a campaign, as an attack ad against the Trump admin. That's what they're looking for. They don't give a fuck about January 6th. They are looking for dirt to put out on campaign ads, both for the rest of this year and especially in 2024. Some flu stuff here. Ian Miles Chong tweets out, Italy unpersons 500,000 elderly workers for refusing the vaccine and suspending them from work. The unvaccinated are not part of our society. Prime Minister Mario Draghi says. I don't know if that's actually what he says or not, because while I could, at the peak and when I practice all the time, speak about maybe 20 to 30% Spanish, I do not speak Italian.
Bisogna che anche coloro che da oggi saranno oggetto di restrizioni, oppure comunque a cui saranno riservate le restrizioni, possano tornare a essere parte della società con tutti noi. Bisogna che anche coloro che oggi
Yep, no idea. I guess we'll have to take Ian Miles Chong's word for it, but also read from Wanted in Rome. Italy to suspend unvaccinated over 50 workers. Employers and workers will face heavy fines if caught in violation of Italy's new Super Green Pass rule. Italy's COVID vaccination mandate for over the 50s kicks in on Tuesday, as the government ramps up its Super Green Pass rules for the unvaccinated. The compulsory vaccine mandate applies to everyone in Italy age 50 or over, with the unvaccinated workers to be suspended without pay, and employees who go to work without the Super Green Pass risking fines of between 600 and 1,500 euros. The Super Green Pass is a reinforced version of the basic Green Pass and can only be obtained by those who have been vaccinated or recovered from the pinko pox. The digital certificate is needed to access restaurants, bars, cinemas, theaters, nightclubs, stadiums, and public transportation in Italy. So, with that, you are now not a person. You can't go out to the bar, the cinema, the theater, the nightclub, public transportation, anything. Which public transportation is huge in Italy. But you are no more. You cannot participate in our society. unless you have had the holy jab. In our side of the world, King County will end vaccine requirements at restaurants, bars, and gyms. And this is out of Seattle, too, from the Seattle Times. Restaurants, bars, theaters, and gyms in King County will no longer be required to check the vax status of their patrons beginning March 1st, officials announced on Wednesday, as the county begins to unwind pandemic policies that have been in place for months. Midterms are coming! Midterms are coming! From March 1st, businesses will be free to impose their own vaccination requirements if they choose, but the county-wide requirements will disappear since last fall indoor eateries and cultural and recreational spaces have been required to verify their customers' vaccination status or a negative test as a condition for entry. The policy has also applied to outdoor events with more than 500 people, like concerts and sporting events. Our public health experts believe that now is the appropriate time to lift vaccine verification based on high rates of vaccine coverage and the decrease in the new cases and hospitalizations across the county. King County Executive Dow Constantine said on Wednesday, "We're moving in the right direction and can continue to take additional steps towards recovery." But there's still a mask mandate, but they're probably going to get rid of that in the next few weeks too. It's all going away, folks, because it was all for show. It was all a dog and pony show. From Reuters. Biden's Fed nominees in limbo after delayed Republican vote boycott. From David Morgan, Pete Schrader, and Lindsey Dunsmuir. U.S. Senate action on President Joe Biden's 5 nominees to the Federal Reserve stalled Tuesday after Republicans boycotted a key vote over objections to Sarah Bloom Raskin, the White House's pick to be the central bank's Wall Street regulator. Banking Committee Chair Sherrod Brown delayed a vote in the slate, which includes Fed Chair Jerome Powell, after none of the 12 Republicans showed up for a scheduled vote Tuesday afternoon. Pat Toomey, the top Republican on the committee, had called on federal Republicans to skip the vote, citing what he said were unanswered questions about Raskin's past role on the board of a fintech company. The development comes as the U.S. Central Bank is gearing up to raise interest rates to combat the highest inflation in 40 years. Instead of showing up to work to do our job, Republicans have walked out of the American people. Brown, of course he did, said to the other 11 Democratic senators on the 24-member panel who gathered for the vote. White House spokeswoman, red-haired bobblehead, said the decision by Republicans to boycott the meeting was extreme and promised to work with Brown on a path forward for nominations. As of late Tuesday, the path was not clear, with Brown adamant he would not split Raskin's nomination from the rest, a solution that Toomey had proposed. Democrats will argue that Republicans are being hypocritical by complaining about inflation while also blocking votes on these nominees. Nominees who will probably raise the inflation rate because they're Biden nominees. Isaac Boltanski, a policy director at the brokerage BTIG, said in an email exchange Republicans will argue that Democrats are being unreasonable by refusing to pause on Bloom Raskin's nomination. It is unclear, he said, which side will blink first. Separately, Republican leader Mitch McConnell met with Powell on Tuesday to discuss inflation and the economy. I mean, here's the reality, the actual absolute reality of all of this. With the attempts to end the filibuster, with the attempts to pull the body into a simple majority state, Democrats are signaling that they're going to get their agenda done without Republican support. So why do the Republicans need to show up in the first place? I would boycott this one too. I would come out and say, no, fuck you. You have said since January 20th of 2020, or 2021 rather, that you don't need us Republicans. You're not going to do a goddamn thing, and you don't need us to be around here the whole time. So of course, absolutely. Walk back away from them. Okay, you want to do it by yourselves? Do it. Go and do it by yourself. Let me know how that works out for you. And I don't know what's going on with Miss Raskin. I know that, like they said, she was in a fintech company. And I do have to wonder if she's related somehow to Jamie Raskin as well. The loud voice in January 6th Selfie Fest. I don't know, but we'll see off of that. From Cleveland.com, Tom Cotton holds up vote on U.S. Attorney nominee over unrelated Justice Department beef. From Sabrina Eaton of Cleveland.com, a Republican U.S. Senator from Arkansas has held up the nomination of Cleveland's Marissa Darden to serve as a U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Ohio over an unrelated dispute he's having with the Department of Justice. And I didn't archive this one. Alright, let's move on with that one then. Let's see what Newsweek has to say about this. Tom Cotton blames the beef with DOJ for blocking vote on U.S. Attorney nominees. Tom Cotton is trading blows with Democrats over key Department of Justice nominations. The Arkansas Republican said he's standing up for U.S. Marshals being hung out to dry, while Democrats say he's putting public safety at risk, because it's always public safety. You're a danger to the people. The two sides squared off on the Senate floor Wednesday as Illinois Democrat Senator Dick Durbin asked Cotton to drop his opposition to U.S. Attorney and Marshal nominees to serve in the Justice Department. The debate that followed Durbin's request highlighted risks between the two parties on criminal justice amid rising concerns over public safety. Durbin said that Cotton's objections to nominees had nothing to do with their qualifications. He accused Cotton of preventing the nominees from starting their work prosecuting crimes, tracking down fugitives, January 6 fugitives, bet me, and preventing gun violence. That delay can cost lives, said Durbin, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee. You're literally killing people! Okay, dude, that line is getting fucking tired. Cotton shot back, saying his opposition was about backing 4 U.S. Marshals defending the federal courthouse in Portland during the riots from 2020 from left-wing street militias associated with BLM movement and Antifa. He said marshals were targeted with laser beams meant to blind them, and fireworks fired at them, and rioters attempted to barricade them in the building to burn them alive. Since then, the U.S. Marshals have faced lawsuits over their conduct during the riots. Cotton has previously written to the U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland asking why the Justice Department hasn't helped to pay for their legal expenses. Because they are U.S. Marshals, that would be correct. Anyone who says they support law enforcement should be defending these marshals, said Cotton. He added they face financial bankruptcy and ruin because the DOJ won't represent them. So that's a brilliant idea too, because, I mean, the DOJ is not doing their job. What they should be for a U.S. Like, if this was the local yokels doing this, I would say, Cotton, piss off. This isn't your fight. But these are the actual U.S. Marshals who are represented and paid by the DOJ. And the DOJ is hanging them out to dry as they're being sued for their conduct. And while I don't think that we should have a federal police force either, I mean, these people did go up and sign up for this. This is not what we do going forward about the policy. This is what's already been done. And yes, the DOJ should, because this is in the past. They should sit back and deal with what's happened in the past already. Fix that, and then, well, while we're in the process of fixing that, start to disband the U.S. Marshals and bring everything back into an elected local sheriff's model. For the places that even need to have law enforcement at all. Here's one for our New York friends, in spite of the fact that our one New York friend has already left and gone to the subway. From Politico, former Mayor Bill de Blasio has opted not to run for Congress before he even got started. From Sally Goldenberg. Less than a month after tweeting a video declaring he would not be vying for government in the upcoming Democratic primary, former Mayor Bill de Blasio took to the same medium Tuesday to share the news that he would not run for the 11th District, which now includes his Park Slope home, on account of newly redrawn maps. I've represented neighborhoods in the 11th CD for years, and I love the people that live here. It was gratifying to connect with the community and elected leaders. While I consider to run, I'm certain Progressive can win this seat and serve us in Washington, de Blasio tweeted. Back in January, I made a decision to focus on advocating for policies that will continue to drive down income inequality in New York. One of my proudest achievements. I'm going to stick with that decision. It was the right one then, and it remains so, he wrote, likely referring to plans to work on education equity. One of de Blasio's greatest accomplishments that was providing free pre-K to all New Yorkers. He briefly considered challenging former Rep. Max Rose in the Democratic primary before the swing seat currently held by Nicole Malliotakis. Though he did not officially launch a bid, he reportedly opened an exploratory committee and commissioned a poll. Yeah, he opened an exploratory committee and found out that he would get fucking curb stomped immediately, so why spend the money? So, de Blasio is out. Anthony Weiner had to get in on the action here, and it is 9, so let's decide. I think we are going to... We'll do the Blaze one. We'll do this one. We'll do the Blaze one. Then I got a couple tweets for us, and thing I like and thing that I hate. And we'll be out of here for the day. All right, from the New York Post. Anthony Weiner says he probably could have beat de Blasio in 2013. I would not be doing anything out there right now, Anthony Weiner, that puts you into the public eye, but, I mean, you do you. Former congressman turned radio host Anthony Weiner claims that New York City residents blame him for de Blasio's time as the mayor of the Big Apple. Weiner had frontrunner status in the 2013 Democratic Party primary before he stepped aside amid one of several sexting scandals, paving the way to a de Blasio victory. But Weiner told 77 WABC owner John Katzimatidis in an interview Wednesday that he could still won the race. The ex-politician left Congress in 2011 in a cloud of scandal after sending a lewd photo and calling himself probably the first ever victim of a tweet that went wrong in the interviews. You showed your junk to a 15-year-old girl while you were married to a Clinton operative. How did you think this was going to turn out? And no, I don't think that you could have beat de Blasio. Moron. Alright, and the last one we're going to do today comes to us from the Blaze. AOC pleads with Biden to cancel more student debt ahead of the 2022 midterm election. From Samuel Mangold Lennon. Socialist Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Chavez, D-Twitch, urged President Biden to pursue student loan cancellation. She told The New Yorker that she believes the student debt forgiveness is crucial if the Democrats are to have any chance in the 2022 midterm elections, Newsweek reported. AOC Biscuit told The New Yorker that the Biden admin is hesitancy on the issue of the growing student debt crisis has a demoralizing effect on the voting bloc that Democrats across the country rely on, Newsweek said. She told the outlet, I can't underscore, Papi, how much the hesitance of the Biden admin to pursue student loan cancellation has demoralized a very critical voting bloc that the President, the House, and the Senate need in order to have any chance of preserving our majority, okay, Papi? The Congresswoman suggested that Biden had a reluctance to use executive power, and he has not been using his executive power to the extent that some would say is necessary. Yes, yes, govern me harder, Daddy. She said, one of the most impactful things President Biden can do is pursue student loan cancellation, okay, Papi? It is entirely within his power. This isn't really a conversation about providing relief to a small, niche group of people. Seabiscuit continued. It is very much a keystone action politically, and I think it's a keystone action economically as well, okay? Some of the young socialist congressional colleagues in the U.S. Senate, like Grifter Warren and Chuck U. Schumer, have also urged the president to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt through an executive order. This past December, Ayanna Pressley, AOC's colleague in the far-left squad, referred to the existing student debt policy as violence. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Why? Why? Look. Here's the reality. Now, yes, they've gone out to do loan forgiveness for people who are legitimately disabled and legitimately unable to work. Whether from an on-the-job injury, whether from an on-the-job illness, whether a career that was being put out. I mean, they've taken a small amount and taken care of that. Some of that because of the government's fault, some of that because of the employer's fault, some of that because of the school's fault. They've taken care of that. But here's the reality. The Democrat Party is the party of big business. There are two things that are not going to happen under this administration. Number one, they're not going, well, they both involve student debt. Number one, they're not going to step on the toes of their friends in the banking clan who control these student loans. They're not going to step on those toes. They're not going to come back out and say, hey, well, you're not going to get all your over interest rates or interest payments or anything anymore. Come on, man. And we're not going to do that. That's not going to happen anymore. They're not going to fucking do that. The people who service the student loans own this government and own this president. They are not going to do that. And furthermore, there are two reasons why this is bad for their big business donors. Their big corporate donors. Number one, this will raise the taxes on the big corporate donors, which, I mean, it'll help them in some way because it'll put their competitors out of business, but it is still going to affect their big business donors. Because in order to do this, you actually are going to have to tax the rich. More than they already are. Number two, you're not going to give all those low-end employees upward mobility to where they can go back out and start a business to compete of their own. Upward mobility is dangerous to the elite ruling class, which are propping up Biden and paying his bills. So no, you are not going to go and take away one of their major bills and give them upward mobility. The ability to buy the house, to go out and start a company, to go back and do this, to do that. You are not going to give them upward mobility. It's just not going to happen. So, good luck, AOC Biscuit. And with that, let's do some fun stuff that I found here. Libs of TikTok. Spotted at University of California, San Diego. What is socialism? Socialism and capitalism are economic. They deal with what your job is and who is in charge. Capitalists believe the workplace should operate like a dictatorship, where one person calls the shots, the CEO. Socialists believe that everyone who works in a business should have a say in its operation. Socialists believe we should have a democracy in the workplace. Yeah, that's going to turn out well. If you believe in democracy, freedom, and equality, you are a socialist. Well, they got the last part right. If you believe in democracy and equity, not equality, you are a socialist. Look, socialists believe that they should have democracy in the workplace, that everybody who works there should have a say in this. Never mind the fact that there's only one person in there whose money is at stake, whose money is at risk. Now, and cooperatives are different because there are people who are actually paying and they're there to be in the cooperative. Like, they have stock, they have money into this. It's an open side of it. And some of the debate that's been brought up around this is the fact that this would be describing cooperative. Yes and no. There are differences between a socialist workplace and a cooperative. There are similarities, yes, but there are big, big differences as well. But in the workplace, you have one person who's put up his money, who's put up risk, who is at risk if everything falls apart. The rest of you go home and go off and find another job to go and demand that you have a say in after you've wrecked this job. There's one guy who will probably lose his house, who will probably lose his wife, who will probably never see his kids again, who will lose his kids' college fund, who will lose everything once the rest of you guys, once you're in a democracy, come and fail the business. Now, if everybody has an equal stake in this and everybody has an equal chance to lose everything off of this, then yes. But that's not the world that you guys want, and I want you to be honest about that. You want to control everything, but you don't want to incur the risk of it. But they will come back out here and they'll still tell you that this is what this is. Alright, what else do we have before we hit anything? Oh, this one. This one. So, this person is C, right? Who is, by the way, teacher, married gay man, hashtag resistor, proud union member, hashtag BLM, LGBTQ, no B, by the way. Apparently, those bisexual people, fuck those people, according to this guy. Stop Asian hate. Graduates from 3 universities, degrees in English, theology, and film. So basically, you are not putting anything into society. But this person, so as a public school teacher, I paid more taxes than Elon Musk last year. He made my yearly salary in the last 2 minutes. Got it. Let me ask you something, C, right? Luckily, you don't teach math. Or at least you don't have a degree in it. My hair is falling into my ear and it's driving me fucking crazy. So, apparently you don't teach math, which is probably a good thing. But as a public school teacher, you paid more than... And I looked this up after I found this because I wanted to know for sure what the number was. You paid more than $11 billion? And you're going to come back and complain that we don't pay teachers enough? You paid more than $11 billion just in taxes. Imagine what that means you're bringing home, by the way. Now, mind you, if inflation keeps going the way that it's going, that'll actually be a realistic number in 2 years, but you're going to come back and tell me you paid more than $11 billion in taxes and you want me to fucking believe that? Fuck you. And then, of course, if you go down to the comment section, if you get past the people that I like Samurai Apocalypse, which also points out the fact, as a public school teacher, you're a net tax consumer and do not contribute anything. The government takes money from other people, gives it to you, and then takes some of it back. Britt, I hope you don't teach math. But, yeah, Elon Musk paid $11 billion in taxes. Just so you know. But then they come back out and say, "Oh, but it's the rate! It's the rate that he's paying. So we need to raise his rate so it's like the rest of us." Dude, Elon Musk paid more taxes than anybody in history last year. So, okay, man. But this fucking moron. I assure you that you did not pay more taxes than Elon Musk. Alright, now for a thing that I like and a thing that I hate. So, the Jewish ginger resistor has come out, and this is help to rid the U.S. of our worst error. Which I didn't realize that the Jewish ginger resistor was old enough to vote against FDR. Intolerant of the intolerant. Hashtag resist. Hashtag BLM. Hashtag vote blue. Blue wave. Hashtag DemVoice1. All hashtag MAGA will be blocked. The Jewish ginger resistor says, "I'm going to need help with this one. Hot Springs County, Wyoming School District turned the school gym into a fucking firing range to teach 5th and 6th graders marksmanship during a PE class. But MAGA says it's books and history lessons making them feel uncomfortable. Everything about this picture should make you feel uncomfortable." I don't know. When I looked at it, I started looking at real estate in Wyoming. And I'm not going to lie. I started looking at, hey, let's go raise a bunch of kids over in Wyoming because I want them to go through this. I think this is base as fucking shit. I do have a problem with this, though. On basic firearm safety, especially in a controlled environment here. Now, these are, first and foremost, these are air rifles. They're not using firearms in this. And it says right here, Mr. Daramoides' 5th and 6th grade PE class are working on their marksmanship with air rifles. All students pass their safety test. Have been sharpening their skills. So at a young age, they're learning the 3 rules of firearm safety, which is good. But I still don't like this because, I mean, if we look at this, and there's a reason that ranges are laid out the way that they are. Because when we look at this and when we look and see what's happening with this, they are pointing rifles downrange. And air rifles, again, like anybody who gets popped with this isn't going to get hurt, but you still want to put your good practices up there. What do you see right there? Downrange. Doors. Now, on the other side, if there's some sort of sign or something to let the people know not to go through that door, I'd be less okay, but I see no evidence of that right now. I would be willing to be told that I'm wrong about that. But this is good. This is something you should know. Every school across the country should be doing something like this. Yes, even the inner city ones. Firearm safety and good marksmanship is an incredible way to make sure that you stay safe, that you keep your family safe, that you keep your home safe. I might have to move to... No, I can't move to my Wyoming. Because then I'd be represented by Liz Cheney. But still, I mean, that's a good thing. Everything about this picture should make you uncomfortable. Fuck you. Alright, and now let's do a thing that I hate. By the way, the Mall Lo-Fi song that's playing right now, I like that too. That's another thing I like. Let's go on to a thing that I hate. From the Blaze. YouTube CEO urges government to outlaw harmful speech. From Blaze TV staff, there she is. The person who will put the ban hammer down on me for some of the things that you guys say in the chat. Because I am careful to stay by their rules. I don't like their rules, but I'm careful to live by them while I'm on their platform. Let's see what Susan WikiWiki has to say. Susan Wojcicki, the CEO of YouTube, has acknowledged that the platform's policy of censoring legal content that it deems to be harmful is controversial and urged governments to step in and pass stronger speech laws. Let me show you, Susan, where you are wrong. And we'll actually read it so I get the quote and the text correct. Let us see what it says here about what it is that governments are stepping in and passing for stronger speech laws. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You are asking the government to step in and pass stronger laws that are abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, because I would consider myself, in this capacity, the press. And what is the first line? Congress shall make no law. She made the terrifying comments about censorship during an interview with Tide TV Hamburg. So, where does YouTube stand on policy meant to censor legal content with so-called harmful rating? Wojcicki explained how she urges governments to pass the laws the platform can easily enforce. We work around the globe, and you're right, certainly there are many different laws in many different jurisdictions, and we enforce the laws of the various jurisdictions around the speech, or what's considered safe or not safe, Wojcicki said. What has been the controversial part is when there's content that would be deemed harmful, but yet is not illegal. Wojcicki said, an example of that, for example, would be the pinko pox. I'm not aware of there being laws by governments saying that the pinko pox, in terms of not being able to debate the efficacy of masks, where the virus came from, or the right treatment or proposal, but yet there's a lot of pressure and concern about the distributing misinformation that went against what was standard and accepted medical knowledge, and so this category of harmful but legal has been, I think, where the most discussion has been. But see, Susan, we've worked by your rules for a very long time, and we know that it doesn't stop at just the COVID or harmful speech. And it jumps up and it starts, because once you have the law and the ability to do that, it becomes censoring speech that might be harmful to people who donate to your cause or who make laws to help you govern your site. We know what you're doing. Pass laws that let me control the narrative and control what's going on here. No. You're done. And you can fuck directly off and fornicate yourself with a large iron rod. And with that, let's head out of here for the day. Where's my outro music? There it is. So with that, we're going to call it a day here. We'll go back and find somebody to raid. So come back and stick with us if you're over on the Twitch side. That's always a fun time to go see who's playing what video games coming off here. Who are we going to do? What do we got going on here? Well, I think it's just me, but we'll still go back and do that. Yeah, we'll go over with Nefora. We'll go see Nefora this morning here. So stick around if you're over on the Twitch side, or if you want to jump over on the Twitch side soon. And we'll go back do that. Otherwise, we'll be out of here. We'll be back here tomorrow morning with more headlines, more sleep, and more contemporary, and see what's going on in the world. Plus live chat. So if you were just lurking, get at least one last minute message in. I see Elephant Man has been here for the first time in a while, so his name will get read tomorrow. But I've got the notebook out here ready. We'll get everybody's name in there, and we'll come back and say a special thank you tomorrow for all the people who chatted in the live chat throughout the week. And tomorrow we'll even look into the live chat and see some of the stuff that you guys are saying. Otherwise, come join us here. I'll probably do a game stream over the weekend because I haven't done that for a while, so come back and join us for that. Otherwise, we will see you next time. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.